Thank you all so much. It's always a privilege and an honor to be part of the World HR Congress. And I am going to speed this up because, well, I don't know how all of you feel, but if you've been here since the very beginning of this morning, you've gone through a lot of emotions already today to this point. The feelings of being overwhelmed by the greatness of the beginning of the program this morning with Dr. Bhatia sharing his own personal journey and some of the things that have been going on for him. Emotional intelligence is the core of who we are and what we do, but oftentimes what I see when I exhibit it in business is that we don't start at the beginning. And what's really important is to be thinking about what are the things that HR needs to come to terms with within their organization. You can't just impose emotional intelligence on the top of something that's already existing. You need to understand what exists first. So what's really important is to ask yourself the questions that we have up here. Are all of these things, what does success look like in my company? What are the elements of culture that are important? How do people experience culture every day? If we can't answer these questions as the HR head or part of the organization, and if we don't have clarity around these issues, we have no hope for being able to actually inculcate emotional intelligence within our organizations. We have to stop and we have to ask these questions and understand the answers to these questions before we even begin to talk about and look at how emotional intelligence can be a tool within our organization. The third thing we have to do is after we get the answers to these questions is connect the dots between them. Are they all connected? Are they all aligned? Do they all support the same mission, vision, and values that this company is trying to support? If there's dissonance between these and the overall mission of the organization, there can't be emotional intelligence because it's disrupted. So it's very important for us to ensure that the answers to those questions are all aligned. The fourth one is to understand that business has a human dynamic. And even though it's important for us to understand how our organization makes money, we also have to understand how the people in the organization are impacted by what we do and how we do it. And then we can begin to check what is our level of emotional intelligence. So here's the explanation of what emotional intelligence is defined by Peter and by John. But when it expresses itself in the business environment, it comes through as executive presence. So first of all, we have to focus on long-term personal and business sustainability as part of our understanding of emotional intelligence. How do we sustain ourselves? How do we hold ourselves accountable for being loving our work, as Christopher shared with us, rather than just liking it or saying, take this job and shove it. Then also, are we prepared to make decisions appropriately and ensure that the decisions are made in a rational way so that employees, that we can understand it, but also we can explain it to our employee population. We have to be strategic in thinking and aware of the trends and the history, using the data and analytical tools that have been shared with us this morning from our digital friends is a very important element for understanding your emotional intelligence within the organization, using your own big data to actually align and determine how you are going to help emotional intelligence be a part of the quotient in your organization. And finally, then we can become an expert in emotional intelligence. But it does start with us first and our need to understand ourselves and how we display and behave in an emotionally intelligent way. We can shape the future by looking at everything that you do today is building tomorrow. There's nothing that you're going to spend your time doing today that won't impact the rest of your tomorrows. For anybody who's known me for a very long time, on all my emails, rather than saying sincerely or goodbye or good luck, I always put, we're building the future, because everything we're doing and interacting is building that future. Now is the real call to action for HR. We have been at the table during COVID. We have had an opportunity to participate and to contribute, and now coming out of COVID and coming into the new future of work, being able to bring emotional intelligence to the organization is what we can really contribute in a way that will help our organizations become mature and sustainable. All the strategic forecasting, these are the metrics for strategic forecasts, and they all include people. They're all people-based. So what's really important is that we remember, again, business is a people-centered opportunity that can be capitalized on for sure if the people understand what they need, what we need from them, and if they can be a part of the activity and feel valued, like Arthur shared with us earlier this morning. We also need to have impartiality. And if there's bias, if there's any kind of biased interest in the organization, we need to make sure that we kind of put that aside and make sure the organization recognizes that bias so that we can move forward impartially. I already mentioned the importance of big data, and it's really important that in our organizations we look to see what big data is available. And if your organizations are like many other organizations in the world, HR has the most big data in the company because we touch every single department across the whole organization in some way, shape, or form. And the data that we have about the people who are the drivers of our business is so useful if we know how to leverage it and present it in a way that makes sense. We also need to understand the art of negotiation, and that is another core element for success in the emotional intelligence arena. Cultural awareness and global mindset are important at all levels of the company, and that only comes after you've been able to help your organization achieve a level of cultural and emotional intelligence internally. So leveraging it can reduce the stress. Leveraging emotional intelligence can reduce stress within your organization. It can be that tool that helps create the safety that Christopher shared with us earlier too. That cultural safety is not only built on trust, but also a level of emotional intelligence exhibited by all of the leaders within the organization. It's important that we think about, this is a chameleon, and you know, I'm not saying you should change your colors, I'm just saying you should understand the colors on the other side of your desk, or across the desk, or in the other office across from you, and understand what they might be facing. Ask them questions, come to terms with the way things are. If HR doesn't see what they're doing as a tool for employees to be satisfied and productive and for managers to lead well, then we need to rethink what we're there for. If we're the HR police, we are not the valued partner that we should be. We are not exhibiting emotional intelligence. The soft skills are really important, and emotional intelligence, as SK said when he introduced me, it's the highest level of need in all of the leadership development courses that I've seen anywhere in the world these days. Emotional intelligence is at the top. And our ability to also be able to present well, as our amazing author did, as Chris did, as Dara Mehta did, getting us all up and dancing earlier. Being able to present our ideas is another key for being able to exhibit emotional intelligence across the organization. And team building, which we just had the session on virtuality and how the virtual world is impacting us. And being able to leverage our emotional intelligence to build teams even if we are operating as a hybrid or a fully virtual organization. And lastly, it's just do it yourself. Read the book. If you haven't read about emotional intelligence and you don't understand what emotional intelligence is or can do for you, it actually can make your life a lot less complicated. Then meet the future once you learn it to teach about emotional intelligence across your organization and share what you've learned about the value of it. Use it when you coach other leaders across your organization. And lastly, institutionalize it in your organization on a global scale. So the organization can be recognized for its level of high emotional intelligence, which will deliver, take this job and love it. Thank you.